morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to Thai Sustainable Summit, the largest summit hosted by Thai Hyderabad. This is JT Rao, founder and CMD of WinAMR. And I'm excited to introduce the topic to the screen, Farm to Table Zero Food Waste. In today's world, this is a compelling topic and needs rightful attention. We have put together wonderful panel members from various expertise. And I'm glad to introduce the moderator, Mr. Harish Methill, for our panel. Harish Methill is founder and director of AMPUP Advisory, a boutique consulting firm based out of Singapore. He comes with strong corporate background and is very passionate about sustainability. He set up AMPUP Advisory to help businesses incorporate sustainability as a core theme into business strategy and business model development. He is certified in circular economy and sustainability strategy, GRI standards and reporting processes, in addition to his MBA from Booth School of Business, University of Chicago. Dear Harish Methill, glad to have you here. And please take it over from here. Looking forward to have an exciting and insightful session. Thank you all. Enjoy the discussion.
Thank you, JT. Namaste. First of all, congratulations and thank you to the organizers and sponsors of TSS 2021 for a purposeful theme, sustainability. I'm honored to be partaking in this panel discussion with our distinguished panel members on farm to table, zero food waste, which is quite close to my heart and links directly to a variety of UN SDGs, goal number 2, for instance, zero hunger, goal number 6, clean water and sanitation, goal number 12, responsible consumption and production, and goal number 13, climate action. And I'm sure it has an implication in all the 17 UN SDGs, but just to name a few, which has a direct relation. Sustainability is about meeting the present and needs of the present without compromising our ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. But overproduction, overtrade, and overconsumption has led to air pollution and climate change, causing shrinkage of forests, soil erosion, decreased wildlife habitat, species extinct, water pollution. And we also know that the linkage between environment and health is inextricable. We need to eat, and we cannot stop agriculture for the sake of environment. Perhaps producing food is the single most absolute necessary activity of human engagement. We will cease to exist without food, and we also need to increase the production of food as population is growing. However, the crucial thing is to find a feed a growing world without ultimately destroying the planet we all depend on. Let us look at some data which is alarming, but yet opportunity for us to work together to address the current crisis and future needs. 35 to 40% of all the world's land is used for agriculture, out of which 75% is used for raising animals or feed they eat. Impact of current agriculture and agriculture practices it is the largest driver of habitat loss and species decline. It is responsible for 70% of total water withdrawals and 85% of global water consumption. It is the largest source of water pollution, especially in the form of nitrogen and phosphorus running off to aquatic ecosystem and coastal oceans. It is one of the largest sources of GHG emissions, 24% directly and 35% if you include indirect emission from large food systems. It is responsible for losing 75 billion tons of our topsoil, which has the highest concentration of organic matter and microorganisms. Let us look at some more challenges in the food system, and starting from production, where every dollar spent on food production directly has an indirect cost from environmental and social impact, $2. That means $1 of food have got an negative externalities of $2. Currently, the estimated food thrown away is about roughly 30%, and it is the value estimated for that particular amount of food is around $1 trillion from the economy. Just to give you a feel for it, it's about 6 garbage trucks every second globally, which is thrown away. And in developing countries, it is due to the lack of infrastructure, but in developed world, it is apparently a wasteful habit. Roughly 10% of the world's population continues to be hungry as well. But let's look at 2050. We will have to feed close to 10 billion people. And we would need to increase the production by 70%. By 2050, again, 68% of the world's population will be living in cities, consuming 80% of food production. So if nothing changes and with increasing food prices, we will see a huge loss of nutrients and major environmental issues. We will be running out of food in 28 years and running out of fresh water in 8 years. But please mark the key word, if nothing changes. So in a nutshell, we have to continue to grow and produce more food, but in a sustainable manner that ensures zero waste, minimal or no impact on climate, or no depletion of natural resources, not damaging the ecosystem. Thereby, the future generations can meet their own needs too. In this forum, let us discuss how we can make an impact on reducing the food waste to zero. So without much further ado, I would like to welcome our panel members, Ms. Wilma Rodrigues, founder and CEO, Saahas Zero Waste, a social enterprise on waste management and consulting. Sharat Loganathan, he was a co-founder of NinjaCart. They are revolutionizing the supply chain for fresh produce. And Vijay Nandiminti, he's a CEO of Agri. He's a business incubator focused on food and agri startups. So I would like to probably, get my first question to Wilma. Wilma, along with your introduction, could we understand what has motivated you to start Saahas Zero Waste? Other than handling waste, which has direct impact on environment and economy, how else is your organization supporting society in large? Over to you, Wilma.
Yeah, thank you, Harish, and thanks for this opportunity to share some of our work and some of our, the thinking behind setting up an organization like Saahas Zero Waste. So we are a waste management company because we believe that, there is a need for us to actually convert waste to resources. So the whole idea is to, in a circular economy, is to put materials back to use so that we actually reduce the need for virgin materials. So as an organization, whilst we do focus on converting waste to resources, we also look, ours is a business model, but as a business which is also very closely looking at social and environmental impact, we believe that livelihood can come through better waste management practices. So to very quickly answer your question, our tracking of our business is through both environmental and social change. And social change and social impact comes from the fact that we are able to offer jobs to people both at the base of the pyramid, because there's a lot of processes and intensive operations required if we have to convert waste to resources. So there is livelihood created at the base of the pyramid, but also because now waste management has to move into a professional management system. So like any other business, we definitely also have professionals in our team who can, use both technology, use both nature, people and technology coming together so that we can actually have this a system where waste is not waste but a resource.
Thank you. We'll have more questions on the systems and ecosystems in general as we move along with the discussion. Can I now request Sharat, for a quick introduction? And also, Sharat, there's an interesting question that I sort of noted down, and I don't know how comfortable you are with it, but I will still go ahead and ask. Did you start NinjaCart with a particular focus on ESG or seeing that as an opportunity? How did you mobilize capital and what strategy was used to attract investors? Over to you, Sharat.
Hi, Harish. Hi, everybody. Again, thank you for this opportunity and giving us a platform to share my insights. Hope it is helpful for the larger audience here. So we are a supply chain company, and just to answer your question, I think it is just I would say sheer curiosity and say the need for problem solving in a business, right? So we started as a grocery and a food delivering company, and we started asking questions about the customer service. And then a larger part of the service had raised questions about the quality of the vegetables being served to them, delivered to them, right? So that is when we started going and seeing behind, okay, if these vegetables are picked up from the stores, why are they bad? And how do the stores go and procure them? And that is when the whole thing opened up, and we visited the market for the first time of Bangalore Mandi, and then saw the huge business. So I think starting up, we didn't have a plan to solve this problem. I think the problem got to us, and we just, once we got stuck on things, and there is no looking back. And that is how we started NinjaCart.
Great, Sharat. That kind of reinforces my thinking that, even if you pick up a project in sustainability, it is a business case. You started with a business case, but it has got a direct correlation with, reducing the wastefulness that we see around, right? I mean, also increasing the impact on society, so to speak. So thank you. Vijay, I would like to move to you. Vijay, I hope you're comfortable. I know we were a little worried, that you got a little, but it's fine. You're comfortable. So in addition to what you would like to introduce about yourself, my question to you would be to, basically help us understand the business model of AgHub and how did your facilitation benefit some of the startups? And if you have some examples, it'll be awesome for us to understand.
Sure. Before I start, sorry for the delay. I hope I'm visible now.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Ty, for calling me in, and it's great to be here. First of all, I'm Vijay, and I'm an MBA in agribusiness. I've been in the agribusiness industry for a couple of years, but coming from the mainstream agribusiness into the innovation industry, we felt that there's a lot more to do in agri innovation space. This is the 7th year I'm in the agri innovation space. This is the second incubator I'm running in. The earlier one was A-Idea, which is another agri-tech incubator I ran, and the current one, which is AgHub. In the whole ecosystem, what I see is a huge lacking ecosystem. So we were in the process of building early stage companies to incubation programs. We were running accelerators, India's first food and agri accelerator called Agri Udan, which we ran 3 series of accelerators, 1, 2, and 3, since 2017. And we also ran an equity fund earlier, wherein we invested in agri-tech startups. We also ran a couple of grants for promoting early stage ideas into prototypes from DST and BIRAC. Apart from this, the current role at AgHub, we are catering to a lot of innovative startups through incubation program, wherein these startups develop their products and go to market. There are also agri-tech innovation pilots, the first of its kind in India, which we have launched to facilitate technology validation of agri-tech startups. We are currently supporting around 16 agri-tech startups under this. The third program is a co-innovation program in agri-tech. It is the first of its kind in India, where the startups are developing the products in conjunction with the agriculture scientists. So these 3 very new to the kind of ecosystem kind of initiatives are helping us go deep dive into the innovation ecosystem and handhold the agri-tech startups on product development, validation, go to market, and also develop the products with agriculture scientists. These are the programs that we are trying to do. Now, coming to the examples, I would like to quote a couple of them in A-Idea as well as the AgHub, which I'm currently running now. Companies like AgNext, which has been into spectral imaging for quality assaying of milk, coffee, tea, rubber, turmeric, these kind of high value crops, which is one of the very good poster boys in agri-tech. We started searching from 2015. It's been the 6th year, and now recently they got funded from Alpha Incubation, $21 million they raised, and that gave A-Idea an exit of 5x, which was the first portfolio we invested way back in 2015. So an incubator getting into accelerators and equity funds and also getting a 5x return itself is a huge accomplishment for the incubator team and also equally to the startup. And most importantly, when you look at the quality assessment, which is an important challenge in the grassroots level, there are solutions available now. Likewise, the companies like Urban Kisan, which is in hydroponics, has been pretty much there. This was one company which we nurtured and handholded. This is very well known in Hyderabad ecosystem. They're one of the very good agri-tech startup which went into Y Combinator accelerator. They got good amount of funding. They have now franchisee stores available. There are companies like Krishi Tantra, multitude of companies in the being which are actually working on farm to fork across farm, food, supply chain, agriculture allied sectors. If you talk about AgHub, there are companies, early stage companies like Terracent, which has been using paddy waste for development of bioplastics. Just 8 months within which they use the labs of the Agriculture University, PJTSAU, under which AgHub is housed, and they develop the product. Now they've applied for a patent. These are the real transformation happening in the agriculture universities, leveraging the ecosystem, leveraging the strength of agriculture institutions to handhold ideas, early stage companies, prototypes, and to move into the market. Well, let me tell you, there are almost, I would say, 90 plus startups that I've nurtured in last 7 years. But yes, the ecosystem is going. If you talk about track record, at least the 78 startups I have nurtured in last 6 years in my past organization, 38 companies got funded. This is a good benchmark. Usually 8% of incubators pipeline get funded. So this is a good indicator because funding is an indicator of the whole maturity of the startup's innovation, product, commercialization, and also the market acceptance. So there's a long way to go, I would try to say. Yes.
Sure.
Happy for more questions as we go
Fantastic.
forward.
You know, and I love this panel because I know that you're in the starting phase of the food systems, and I know that next Sharat can step in. There's a little bit of you know, I know at the far end is Wilma, and there's a little bit of a gap where I would fit in and see how I can connect the whole food system here. All right, it's an interesting panel. I really love this. Okay, I want to move on to the next question now. Since in the interest of time, Wilma, I think I would like to come back to you and, you know, ask a question. If you really look at the hierarchy of food recovery, you know, the first step is obviously to reduce reduce at the source, right? Reduce the wastage, and then feed hungry people. I mean, there's a pyramid that if you really look at it, that's how it's, you know, it's been communicated, articulated, and it's practiced world over. And then so that means you reduce the source at source, reduce the waste at source, and you feed the hungry people, and then you feed, if you're still having, you feed the animals, and then you use for industrial purposes. If leftover, and if there's still leftover, then you would composting, and lastly, and you use it for, you know, landfill and incineration. So, and I do know that, you know, food waste is a raw material for you, but considering a higher purpose, I would also think that you agree that we should be generating less food waste. So, from your perspective, what are the things missing in our ecosystem to be able to achieve, you know, implementing that pyramid that I just talked about, starting from reducing at the source to the landfill incineration, and what are the other emerging business models that you're seeing in the food waste management spectrum?
Yeah, so when you talk of management of food waste, reduce definitely comes up very high. But even if you have to make sure that, you know, say at an event, you have a surplus food being cooked, and this food is good food, can go to, you know, multiple other people who could need or use this food. Now, the fact is that whilst we plan in our businesses, in any kind of, even as I mentioned, I gave you this example of an event, the planning for what happens for the excess food is not included. So therefore, it becomes very ad hoc when suddenly there is a requirement for, you know, food to be going to the right kind of to alternatives. Now, what we need in every business model, including the business model of an event manager, is to put that cost for logistics into the system, to have a planning system, to make sure there is already a database of people who could use this food, who could work with organizations like us, who can then, you know, do that mix and match that is required. So whilst we're talking of emerging business models, there is a great need for startups to make sure that, you know, when you are planning your business in the forward supply, think of the backward reverse logistics systems that are required as well. So we as an organization work with food waste, and we work with a lot of tech parks and a lot of corporate campuses, educational campuses. Now, what we urge all of these campuses, and many of them, you know, are got large spaces, large kitchens, large food courts. So the infrastructure for managing this food waste should be, and when I talk about food waste which is uncooked, which is again a great resource, because, you know, you can get compost out of fruit peels. You can convert your coffee grounds into good compost, and your cooked food goes into a biodigester where it goes back into making bio-CNG and comes back to you in the kitchen so that you can use less other fuel. So I'm saying there are systems that are now there as solutions, and we would like business models, even in the agricultural tech space, you know, to make sure that as you're building your business model and your business plan, look at how, you know, there would be a system for resource recovery. So today there is, you know, you see a lot of food, packaged food being prepared, and expiry dates, you know, coming up, and this material then after the expiry date definitely just goes into incineration, into dump sites, into a negative kind of situation. So therefore, it is now required, and we hope that the ESG framework will push companies to being accountable and to making sure that their business plans give them that opportunity to be accountable to the waste that is generated. After reduce, make sure there is also a solution beyond dumping or incineration.
Excellent. I couldn't agree more with you, because I have seen myself, there's an ecosystem in place where I live in Singapore, obviously, and it is that the association, the restaurant association, or the quick service restaurants and food service companies, I have connections with NGOs who are basically collecting all this food, excess food, and delivering it to the points, and the associations, which are also NGOs. And there's absolutely no waste of food that I've heard here. At least they're trying not to waste food from that perspective. And obviously that also goes to a lot of other valorization purposes that we talked about. Fantastic. I think that ecosystem definitely needs a little bit of push, I think, from our perspective in our country. Okay, Sharat, I would like to move to you, and I'm just taking turns so that all of us have equal opportunity to discuss. And I also have to provide some time at the end of it for the Q&A from the questions from the audience. But let me take you to the next, very similar questions. And I definitely know this is something that all of us are aware, that the extent of artificial intelligence and data-driven insights that's used in agriculture, especially in procurement, where the demand forecasting is used, and also that I see that this is helping companies for preventing overbuying and definitely wastage. And I've also seen, there's a few companies that I come across is Fresh and Shelf Engine. And I've also came across companies like Appeal, which has got to spray the plant matter that slow the process of spoilage in vegetables and fruits. There's another company who's got protective coatings based on silk protein, and another company producing sachets, which can be put into producers in the boxes, which can help which can extend the shelf life of fresh produce. So from I would like to know in NinjaCart, how do you plan and forecast? What sort of technology to use? And what levels of savings are you seeing in farmers' income and drop in wastages, and also increase in revenue profit? I mean, if you have some rough numbers, that will be helpful so that everybody understands the value of technology. And obviously, if you're not resorting into other shelf life extension programs, would also like to know about it, and in your thoughts on that, please, Sharat.
So this is it's a very complex question to answer very straightforward way, Harish, because when you talk about saving waste, right, then it's into two. It's a macro level, and it's something that is related to the company. The company is much more inward looking, trying to save the waste for itself, because waste is equal to dump is equal to loss to the company, right? So how do we optimize that is something that a lot of companies are doing. Second question is at the larger scale, whether there are technologies and something which is going to impact food waste at a macro level, right? Now these two questions are very different. So definitely with AI, demand forecasting, etc., right? The volume that we are handling is definitely optimized, and for the current customer segment and the current way of market, right? Even if say we kind of use all the technology to save the food, the end retailer is a normal vegetable shop guy who does not have any infra with him, and it's a huge market in India, right? So at the end of the day, once even if I keep the vegetables in a temperate, not in a room temperature, and then it's a little bit at a lesser temperature, and introduce the vegetable to the normal temperature, suddenly it starts decaying faster. It's called thermal shock, right? And that's why it cannot be technology. It has to be more like data, and how much should I procure and how better should I procure is something which we work on. Plus, at a larger level, which are with my 5 years of experience, what are the better sources in which part and at this time of the year would my procurement would make more sense, logistically, is what we do, right? The second part is, though there are a lot of companies which do in terms of extending the shelf life, but then the cost to benefit versus how it is going to help at a unit level, right? So for example, let's say if it's as simple as the larger market with 80-90% of the market, which is right now is inorganic and a mass market in India. But I'm talking it is Indian market ecosystem, right? the cost of the produce by giving it extending shelf life compared to an item which reached the market, at room temperature through normal traditional channels, right? The cost is so different, and right now a larger segment of the customers are not willing to pay the premium for the cost that will incur to it, and businesses don't find it economically viable to do it. So this is a major thing, right? So when I extend my shelf life, that should be benefit for the. It's basically like trying to save some of my, let's say, far-thin assets with technology, where losing asset is much more cheaper than saving the asset by using technology, right? It's a call we take. So we have not found that equilibrium yet for us to kind of figure out, okay, this is a technology is going to help us. But definitely the technologies are there, but economically viable, commercially scalable is, I think, as far as my knowledge is concerned, like as far as I know, I think we are yet to reach.
Sure.
And moreover, one last bit I want to add is, I think the food wastage or zero waste or happens more at the consumption and and the logistics part, right? So, and moreover, at the demand market, let's say when the item reaches the demand market, that is where a lot of food gets to waste. So let's say if no, everybody talks about a technology at the source, how we can extend shelf life, but can there be a better and economical way to extend shelf life post harvest at the demand center? Is something can work, is what I believe, but we have not gotten any further in that direction. So I think this is what we use, and I think this is what.
Sure. Yeah, I think, from a business perspective, I think it probably makes a lot of sense in what you're saying. But I also seen that, there are certain, when you bring in fresh vegetables and fruits, and I believe some may not look good enough to be on the retail shop, but there's still nutritional value in that. And I think there are valorization techniques available today to get a much value-added product with that, right? I mean, for instance, you can make a jam out of it, or you can make I think they're also making fibers from some of the citrus products, is what I heard, and there are definitely more value-added products that can be made rather than just posting it, is what I believe. So I don't know if that is something that you probably want to think about and talk to people who are. It's again going back to the same argument as ecosystem. I guess that's what we need. If we don't have that, we can't have that thing.
One side, there are things coming up like this, where out of these items we can take the supplementary products, and there are also ideas coming in where, let's say, a consumer wants a banana to be equally shaped at the same length, and they want cauliflower to be like white, and they want it to be big, which is not natural, right? And the products coming forward to make it look like that. And also business trying to make the best out of what we can do from the such kind of deformed products as well.
Sure. Okay. Can I move to Vijay? Vijay, I think you probably touched base on this one, and maybe, but I think it's worth probably going back again, because there'll be a lot of questions on that. Essentially, I think I'm looking at the process by which you connect startups with other stakeholders, and where do you see the real value creation happening in the process for all stakeholders? Vijay, you probably can elaborate that a little bit. That'll be very helpful for all.
Across the pipeline as a part of the programs. What I saw is 98% of the founders who come to the AgTech space are largely entrepreneurs from non-agriculture backgrounds. So the stakeholder connections to the agriculture, the scientists, the farmers, the students, the agribusiness professionals is very crucial. What we've realized is, as the startups come across the pipeline of food and agri-tech, across the supply chain, there are diverse amount of startups which work on product or supply chain or technologies that are service oriented. So these kind of startups with having diverse products and also diverse service offerings need diverse kind of connections. There are 4 crucial elements of stakeholder connections. One is technical, where we connect the startups to the agriculture scientists as a part of the research institutions, universities, and academia, which can them connecting to the resources, labs, and research elements which are available in the research ecosystem. Number 1. Number two, we also connect them to the agribusiness industry by connecting them to agribusiness industry mentors and professionals who have a huge industry experience and who handhold the startups in kind of building viable business models. The third is building good teams. We as agribusiness professionals and also the ecosystem we are from, we connect them to the agribusiness B schools and also the alma mater of these B schools who are industry professionals who could be recruits full. And fourth and most crucial is as agri incubators, once we are grooming these tech startups, at certain stage we are helping them connect to the investors. We work with a couple of investors, largely from angels and angel networks and venture caps, which we are a part of when we incubate them or when we kind of give them a seed funding. At a later stage, we actually get them connected to these professional institutional funds. These are the four major stakeholder connects. Having said that, we also connect them to other stakeholders, including business service support providers. It could be legal counsels or secretarial counsels or financial counsels or IP counsels, but who have the agri flavor of giving that element of support. So these are mostly the kind of support systems that we give. But when you talk about the crucial element, I think it is definitely dependent on the stage of the enterprise. If a startup is on the product development node, it matters as much as I give them a scientific connection to as much as that at the early stage, they're in a product go-to-market kind of support. They require a business support. Henceforth, they are connected to the business industry or agribusiness professionals. When they require teams, connection to the teams becomes more important. And at a later stage, when they require funding. So it is something like a journey. As they move towards that specific journey, as an incubator, we need to understand the specific journey. Based on the journey of the enterprise, we connect them to the appropriate stakeholder. That's how the whole progression happens.
Excellent. I hope you left 2 boxes of your business card somewhere in the venue, at the venue.
Hopefully, yeah, I would, yeah.
All right, I want to switch a little bit here, the gears, and I'm moving back to Wilma. Wilma, definitely I know that you and I talked about circular economy, and definitely technology is an enabler in implementing circular economy principles. To give you 2 examples that I came across, Flash Food and Good to Go. These are 2 mobile apps. Actually, they help the stores and restaurants to reduce waste, because they enable the customers to buy near expiring products at a discount. So you have these mobile apps, you get it on your phone, and that will be flashing whether these products are available. You can quickly go and buy at a discounted price. So that's how they're helping. I would like to know from your perspective and in your business, what circular economy principle in general are you using? Sorry, some of the methods that you're using, and do you actually interact with Ellen MacArthur Foundation, or you get any other support from any other organizations on that, Wilma?
No, so we are a business model, and so therefore we would really like to have businesses understand and engage with us to ensure that, whether it is supporting them to reduce their waste or managing their food waste, these would be the 2 areas that we would work in. So we don't really have any support from through any grants, but our entire business model is revenues that we get through a service fee. And that's where I was kind of saying that today, in any any kind of agri or food business, the planning around what happens to excess food should be part of any business, and that is how there would be the synergies taking place. Yeah, for instance, the food, NinjaCart, for example, where you do have at the end of the day, waste, which is vegetable waste, etc. So there is a planning for what happens to that. And there is the consumer today who is also asking, much as there is the demanding consumer who is unreasonable sometimes, we have to now push for consumers who are respectful of environment and in the interest of the larger planet, pushed in a direction that reflects this kind of sensitivity that we now need to build around the planet. So in our business model, we definitely would look at all kinds of waste, food waste that is managed through back-end systems of composting and even biogas, and at the front end, looking to reduce through engagement with customers. For instance, in our tech parks, we do have a digital display of how much food waste on a day-to-day basis, the employees would be wasting. So that gives them an indication of taking less food on their plate, and then you would have at the end of the day perhaps that whatever is left over goes to a particular end destination, either for reuse and also for recycling or for processing. As animal feed also, that is a good way in which we could reduce the food wastage. But even if you have to give it either to the pig farms or to cattle farms or even as chicken feed, these are again new emerging business models. But imagine the operational costs around it. Imagine the infrastructure. If you have to supply food to a pig farm, you do need a cold supply chain so that the food doesn't get bad. Now, who is going to meet all those costs? Again, it has to be the consumer. It has to be businesses at the front end who are kind of having these kind of services. So that is, if we have to build a circular economy, there is a big change in business plans which need to be done. And I keep saying this because at this point of time, circular economy, unfortunately, is a word which is fashionable or trending, but on the ground, we see big gaps, and that needs to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Because circular economy, again, it is a concept which is implemented right from the beginning of a design of a product. It is very, very impactful, right? Now we're trying to make a change in the system, from my experience, and especially with the food, which is a consumed item, right? And there's a bit of a challenge with food per se, but the systems that around, we can definitely work around it, and we can introduce. Designing the waste out may be a bit of a challenge when it comes to food, but we can definitely implement other stuff that we call in the handling in that pyramid that we talked about in terms of handling the food waste or recovery of food. Let me put it that way, recovery of food, and I think that's what is more important. I do understand, and it will evolve at some point in time, because end of the day, when a pig farm or a cattle farm getting food at a lower cost, input cost, than what it would essentially get him to pay for buying it. That's when I think that's what it takes, and I think that's an ecosystem that we need to build, and that's a circular economy system that we need to probably implement to make sure that the system is following that, and that we all get the benefit out of it. The entire value chain gets the benefit out of it. Clearly, thank you for bringing that, and I keep hearing from you the challenges that you already hear. And here is some good news, actually, that what I have read from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation notes. In India, there is something called a zero budget natural farming, which has actually come across. They started in Karnataka apparently, and that has also got influence into Andhra Pradesh in West Godavari district. And there's a farmer called Satya apparently, and he is a beneficiary of this. And in 2017, when a hailstorm passed over his village, destroying many of the neighboring farms, his 6-acre banana plantation is kept mostly unscathed due to a stronger plant resulting from regenerative farming approach. Okay, this is started with the zero budget natural farming, which they have their own definition of that, and no synthetic fertilizers, no pesticides, and doing the topsoil digging and this thing and adding up organic manure and stuff like that. Apparently, there are about 160,000 farmers in Andhra Pradesh practicing this. I mean, I do not know. I'm just reading from the report that I've seen. And probably some of you already know. I'm just wondering whether, Sharat, you will have any insights into this, and whether any of these strategies that you come across, or you have any of those things that you sort of ensure track report sort of stuff, or any other incentive programs that you give to facilitate execution of success in the farmer's place, or you just it's hands off from your perspective, and how do you sort of see these kinds of things helping the farmers?
So I would say that tracking these things is much more internal than external, because it becomes a cost implication for the company, right? So pure say, and then moreover, what produce reaches where, and if let's say somebody complains about the quality, then I better know where it came from, right? And also if it came from the new village that we are into, or is it came from somebody that we have been working at a longer level, right? Now there are two approaches to it in villages where we have established ourselves, where there is a trust factor, where with the working in the last 5 years that we had been customers, farmers have started interacting and engaging with us. That is where you kind of also guide them that what could be the good practices or what they can do, work with, give them certain help, because without the trust, one important thing is that if I tell a farmer don't grow this or grow this way, the first question the farmer is going to ask is, dude, if something happens to the crop, will you pay me? Will you pay me at this level, right? So that is a bet that I do not want to take. And we have seen that even when you get into, let's say, I will definitely give you this price for the crop, and let's say at the time of the produce, the farmer chooses to give you if your prices are higher than the market. If it is lesser than the market, he will say he will not give you, and you cannot do anything about it. Third thing, even if the prices are higher, let's say if I'm paying him high, right? So he knows that this is the produce that is getting me this revenue, right? Now the way his motivation is over to take care of the crop, right? He sees that okay, now I need not put the effort and the resources needed to make it a better crop, right? So I think it's much more people issues, trying to save or try to maximize from their own investment and stuff. But let's say when as a company, I have to safeguard my customers' interest. In that way, definitely we have reached to a level where we know in advance what is the climate, what is the soil, what has been the input going in to some level, and trying to track where it has come from. At least, okay, this is the produce which came from which farmer and it went to which customer and what was the transit and what happened to it. So we have been able to track it, which is helping us going and giving feedback to the farmer, either by suggesting him to tell him that please improvise your product, or telling him, okay, I do not want you to do business with you because your quality is not something that I can handle, right? So basically it is much more of a safeguard of my business rather than going and helping out, okay, track and monitor your group.
Yeah, it's been the challenge, right? I mean, I know Vijay is smiling and I think he's got some other points to talk about it too. But I'll come to you, Vijay, with another question. You can probably respond to some parts of this in that question, if you will. And what I have is it's about regenerative farming again. It's like building and improving your soil conditions or increasing biodiversity or sequestering carbon or holistically managing animals or perhaps mimicking nature. That's my understanding about regenerative farming. But we also see again, like I think I talked about technology as an enabler in many occasions. And here also you can see the use of technology. And I mean, like there are companies who are making smart agriculture system, and I'm sure it's available in India too. Smart agriculture management platforms, and there are also on-field management systems, and there's a satellite-based maritime and weather tracking systems, and all these things are utilized in today's modern regenerative farming system. Could you please comment on some of the emerging models in sustainable farming in India, whether it's enabled by technology or capital or government, NGO, corporates, or anything else that you can throw light upon? And also, it would be interesting to know whether you have any other views on the question that we just chatted with Sharat.
Okay, sure. It's interesting, we as India, post-independence, we started with production-oriented systems, largely going with overemphasis on production. Of course, it was 4 decades back, and now the country is food production oriented and it is self-sufficient in most of the things. But gone in that case, now we are talking about warehousing, logistics, challenges in nutrition efficiency, those kind of challenges. And also the farming, when we are talking about farming now, it has become a mostly commercial oriented, production oriented, but there's also a challenge of excess usage of fertilizers and pesticides, largely, which is also a challenge or a concern for the customers. So because of the changing requirements of the consumers on the front end and also the global patterns, the focus on the sustainable farming or regenerating farming is increasing, number one. Why is it increasing? Because of the health consciousness, because of, you want to preserve the food supply chain. On the other side, you also want to go in a sustainable format in which the whole, civilization emerged. But having said that, there's also a hybrid of science and the agriculture that has to emerge in a very holistic manner, in a very balanced manner, I would say. As a result, there are multiple approaches which are being taken as a part of the sustainable farming practices.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm just waiting for JT. Do you have anything that you would like to send us from the audience, or shall we continue with our discussions?
You can continue your discussion.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we have a lot of things to talk. Yeah, it's probably people are thinking about these questions anyway. So I'm glad we can actually talk. We're probably going to get to the final rounds, and we're also getting close to our closure time. So I'll again go for one more round, and let me actually start on a reverse order now. Again, I've come back to you, Vijay, and I'm going to ask you this question. I'm sure you and I chatted a little bit about this, and we also related to the food systems and the wastages because of lack of infrastructure in many developing countries. And I would consider we are also having that challenge in India. And we're overcoming that, but we definitely still have the challenge. But what are some of the emerging trends that you see, for startups as opportunities in the infrastructure area?
I'm sorry. Hello, I think I got disconnected. Can I continue?
Yes, Vijay, did you hear my questions, or do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I was just continuing the previous question. If you could just give me a 1 minute. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry for this. Yeah. So I was talking about sustainable farming. There are multiple approaches being taken, whether you call about natural farming or ZBNF or organic farming or hydroponics or vertical farming, mulching, NPM, IPM, multiple approaches are there towards sustainable farming, which essentially talks about optimizing the resources and also maximizing the output with a very sustainable approach of preserving the soil, nutrients, water, weather, everything. If you're taking some examples, at least for us, farming was a farming situation in agriculture in a field. But now there are modern approaches of farming. Hydroponics has emerged. Startups pretty much from Hyderabad, like Urban Kisan, or startups in hydroponics like City Greens, a multitude of startups are there. So these startups are taking new strides to build the science of hydroponics and go with the soilless farming of using water and growing these new niche crops which are in demand. There could also be approaches like rooftop farming kits. One of the companies like Home Crop, which promotes rooftop farming kits from Hyderabad, which I promoted earlier. This is also kind of companies which are promoting high density production of vegetables in urban peripheries. There are startups which are also using allied sciences like solar energy. For example, one of the startups we support called RenCube uses a patented photovoltaic cell for preserving the solar energy for usage in agriculture fields. There are also companies which are using the organic farming approaches, like, for example, 24-liter mantra, these kind of companies which are not only promoting organic brands, but also in the back end, they are creating the organic supply chains. Likewise, there are also a lot of non-profits which are promoting preservation of seeds. There are some small enterprises and startups which are promoting preservation of local native hybrid varieties, of indigenous varieties, I would say. There are also corporates like Walmart Foundation or Syngenta Foundation, which have been working with the farmers and FPOs in promoting the value chains and going with good agriculture practices. So there are multiple examples being taken up. Of course, these examples are small, but these are healthy examples to quote that there are changes which are happening in the ecosystem. Yeah.
Very well noted. And Sharat, you and I have filled our notebooks, and I'm sure you also fill it up like me.
I have the names in the mind.
So Vijay, actually, there's one more point that I want to touch base with you, and that's on infrastructure. And we talked about the wastage of food that's happening because of lack of infrastructure in many developing countries, and I think it's partly true in our case too. Do you see any emerging trends in that in the startup ecosystem? Do you think there are opportunities for companies to look at anything that you can throw light there would be really helpful?
I think when we talk about food wastage, essentially people were talking about wastage at the farm, wastage at the mandis, and wastage in the supply chain. There were multiple approaches which were taken up, especially by promoting logistic companies, warehousing companies, or commodity trading companies. But in the due course, if you talk about the modern innovative approaches which are taking up, we were actually expecting as a country to build up huge infrastructure in a PPP mode in food processing, warehousing, logistics, which couldn't actually happen the way we have foreseen. But there are some healthy models which are talking about decentralized approaches, wherein small entrepreneurs or small startups are coming. For example, we are not talking about big cold storage. We are talking about a farm gate cold storage. There are startups like Ecozin, or one of the startups I promote called Temperatech, which are talking about on-farm cold storage systems, which are using off-grid systems, which maybe doesn't need full-time electricity, or which are using solar energy-based systems to
We're missing you, Vijay.
Going with a decentralized approach of promoting a specific district with a specific crop for which it is known in terms of the local infrastructure and processing, and in turn promote micro-processing entrepreneurs to be able to process the commodities in that local district and be able to kind of do this. I think the approach as a country we need to take as a government, as corporates, as non-profits, or also as startups is to take a decentralized approach, especially in the areas of warehousing, logistics, even for the supply chain. There are a good amount of startups which are taking supply chain route, which are giving a good amount of fruits and vegetables to the customers. But also in the meantime, there are companies like NinjaCart and all these players who are actually helping the farmers to be able to be more efficient as a supply chain, reduce losses by connecting the farmers to the end customers directly. So I think if we were talking about food wastage, it doesn't happen only with a single pronged strategy. It happens at all levels, at the supply chain level, at warehousing, at storage, logistics, and also at the distribution level, for which the players are distributing. Thanks to the startup culture, today we are blessed with a lot of techies, a lot of entrepreneurs who are quite passionate to solve the issues from post-harvest stage till the customer, which was not solved the way it had to be.
Absolutely.
They were corporates, they were also the research institutions, but also we felt that there's a huge need of entrepreneurs and these startups to play a role in these unaddressed gaps. And that's where, thanks to the startup culture, we see a lot of these entrepreneurs. You see Saahas on this side, you also have the players from NinjaCart, Methill, these kind of players who are already there in the ecosystem solving issues in multiple approaches. The approach may be different, they have taken, but yes, it is towards one goal of reducing wastages and be more efficient as a supply chain, and also kind of justify that we as a country are not just good in production, but also in creating a very healthy ecosystem and a very sustainable system of supply chain and food distribution to the
Fantastic.
customer.
You know, I couldn't agree more with you. And I definitely know that, you know, I mean, the way that I've seen the progression of the business growth for both Saahas and as well as Sharat for your NinjaCart, I can definitely see that it's expanding slowly into different parts of India, and that's pretty, and that's definitely, you know, encouraging to even the new startups which are coming into the food space. And fantastic, right? Thank you, Vijay. That was very, very nice, and I think you're giving a lot of inspiration to the startups and to the people who are also investors in the entire food systems. And that's nice, and I think which is probably this discussion is very helpful. Yeah, I think Sharat, I think my question to you also probably seeking an advice from you for startups in the food system. What is that you have a message to them, you know, in terms of joining building the ecosystem and also raising capital or HR or developing business? Do you have your 2 cents that you would like to share with the companies who are wanting to get into the food space? What's your advice?
So I think I would say who would want to do a startup rather than just in food space. So basically, I think basically everybody, my piece or my 2 cents would be to really identify a problem that you are passionate to solve about, right? That like takes up 23 hours and 45 minutes of your day, and the rest 15 minutes is to think about, okay, how can I spend more time into it, right? So the problem that really you can believe that a solution to that is currently not at that level, and you'll be able to provide a solution which can be commercially viable and scalable and sustainable, right? And that is what, and that's a journey, okay? And secondly, definitely the team that you work with. So, and the team should be equally passionate about solving the problem, because the initial days are going to be the toughest. And that is where you will have to fight and, you know, have a war room in the truest sense to identify what will work, what will not work, what we should do, what not we should do, and make sure that the solution to the problem is happening and not just give up, right? I think these 2 things are very important for a startup, be it in food space or I think any problem they want to solve.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wilma, this will be the last question. I think I don't think we will have time for more than this. And you did actually talk a lot about it, but I think I would like you to summarize. And I just want to give you an example, like the corporate involvement here. You take the, I don't know if many of you read the Unilever's case in terms of the food waste, you know, waste management. They have a report. It's future food strategy that they have, you know. And I also know that the government policies and corporate commitments are important. So that's why I bring in the case of Unilever here. Their goal was to reduce the food waste by 50% by 2025. Okay, and they've also made a promise that they will not be sending any food to the landfill. No good food will be destroyed. And they have enrolled all the supply partners and aligned them with the same philosophy and goals. And they also help other food companies to tackle food waste prevention and redistribution. They even talk to all the consumers. Actually, they even give them alternate recipes for some of the leftover foods that cannot be consumed as A, can be consumed as B, and sort of stuff. So, I mean, so are you also involved in any other stakeholder group like this, Wilma? From your perspective, I know you did mention, but do you have any ideas of how we can start pushing these kinds of models to develop within our ecosystem?
Yeah, so there is a lot of expired foods which currently is not addressed. So on in our supermarkets, when there is food which is beyond an expiry date, there is no accountability, as I said before, as to what happens to that food. There is somebody who's picking it up, somebody who's disposing it. Some of it goes informally to cattle feed. So we would like, especially leaders in the big FMCG brands who are involved in this kind of packaged food, to engage with, and that's where a lot of new business models can come up. So in my thinking now, when we are talking of closing the loop, that accountability up to the end destination, not just for manufacturing and for the forward supply chain, but also for closing the loop on the other hand, is very important. Currently it exists, it's very, very informal, and that's where we would like the big brands to step in here to see how to formalize a system. There are already the solutions running in an informal manner, and we need industry who has extremely good experiences in processes.
Thank you so much. I can now sort of see that, Sharat, you're probably getting a lot of encouragement in terms of, when you look at, you don't have to do this alone, right? I mean, if you really look at, and then like Vijay explained, it's about the entire food value chain. If you look at it, starting from farming to the table or to the fork, so to speak, there are multiple stakeholders in the entire the value chain, and you need to have that ecosystem where you can get the support, and there are moments happening, and I'm glad at least, Vijay, from at least the beginning part of the value chain, we are having immense push, and I'm sure it will be getting extended to the next. The logistics also, you have seen that. In the manufacturing, I think some corporates are doing, Unilever for sure are doing, and I'm sure there are other food companies also getting involved slowly. Nobody wants to waste food. Nobody's gaining anything out of it, rather than it's only losing and causing an impact on the nature. With that, I would like to thank all of you. That was really insightful, entertaining as well, to be honest, and interesting. So thank you, Wilma. Thank you, Vijay, and thank you, Sharat. And JT, over to you. And thank you, the organizers and the sponsors of the event. We're all very thankful to you for this opportunity to present the food waste and how we can reduce it. Thank you.